If you want to think more critically, you just have to think about how you're thinking more often. Hey leader, David Burkus here, organizational psychologist, author of 4 best-selling books on helping leaders and teams do their best work ever. And in this episode, we're gonna talk about how to think more critically. We're thinking about thinking today, the skill of metacognition. And there's never been a better time for it, if we're being totally honest. We live in a world that is constantly changing and constantly facing new and complex problems, which requires more critical thinking. We also live in a world where people seem to be doing less and less of it. Leaders are content to follow the herd in order to avoid criticism, but they're not actually solving any of those complex problems. And when they are trying to think their way out of complex problems, often they're falling in love with the first solution, and then most of the problem solving that they're doing is actually about building consensus for that first idea instead of chasing down every possible idea and arriving at the best one. So in this video, we're gonna talk about 4 ways that you can grow your critical thinking and your creative thinking skills, 4 habits to begin to maintain in order to think more critically, in order to think about thinking so you can get better at thinking. Let's get started. The first habit to build when trying to think more critically is to borrow diverse brains. We know diversity is important. We know that there is real value when people come together because creativity is a team sport. We know that. And in particular, those teams work best when they have a variety of different perspectives, a variety of different backgrounds, when they see the problem differently, and when they generate ideas differently because they have different knowledge, skills, and abilities. But this is a hard habit to cultivate. It's difficult to borrow diverse brains because we don't really like conflict, right? In order to borrow truly diverse brains, we have to be comfortable being in conflict with those same people. And so we have to also develop the skill of respectful conflict in order to show them that I value your opinion, even if we leave the discussion disagreeing with it. You and me being in conflict still helped me see more broadly. And as a result, I was able to borrow the benefit of the diversity of your brain for a moment and put it towards thinking of my problem. Even better, inviting you in to help me solve the problem and let us argue over solutions is an even better way to borrow diverse brains because again, now we're not just seeing the world differently, we're thinking about how we can change the world differently as well. The next habit to develop when trying to think more critically is to question your assumptions. We all make assumptions about the problems or possible solutions that we have. We assume that the world today is similar to the world that was 5 years ago. I could do a whole video about the ways in which that's not actually true. We also make assumptions about our ideas, right? We come up with an idea, we tend to assume we'll be able to deliver on that project, that new initiative faster and for less money than it ever takes. Those are common assumptions that turn out to be wrong. We also tend to assume that our ideas will be better received than they tend to be with the entire organization. So make sure as you're developing these different ideas, you are questioning your assumptions. If you're borrowing diverse brains, by the way, questioning assumptions is also a great way to harness that respectful conflict we were talking about in number 1. Question their assumptions, right? There is the idea, and we tend to get really, really attached to the idea, but there are assumptions underneath the idea that we can question as well that'll push our thinking a bit further. What if we had to do it for 1/10 of the budget? What if we had to do it in 1 month instead of 1 year? What would change? What are we assuming we have to work with that maybe won't be there? Let's question all of those assumptions in order to generate even more possibilities and hone in on the perfect solution. The third habit to develop when trying to think more critically is to find the right question. This is a common error in thinking I see in leaders of all levels. We usually treat as a problem what is actually the symptom of the problem. We don't take the time to step back, to push back and see, is something else upstream actually causing the problem we're trying to solve? So taking time right at the beginning of facing a new problem that we're trying to think more critically about to do the research and structure the question better can lead to much better solutions. Tony Robbins, the motivational guru, was dead on when he said, if you want a better answer, you need a better question. Usually that question lies 2 to 3 steps back from the problem that you solve. So work backwards to find that perfect question. See if you can go upstream to find the bigger problem that's causing the symptom that is what triggered you to notice there was a problem. And stop treating the symptom, start treating the root cause of the problem. And the fourth habit to develop when trying to think more critically is to consider the implications. This is sort of the flip side of finding the right question. Finding the right question involves going backwards backwards to make sure that we are asking the biggest question, that we are solving the root cause of the problem. Consider the implications means as we're debating solutions, let's think downstream. What are the after effects, right? How does the decision we're about to make or the initiative we're about to implement, how does that change the rest of the system? The skill of systems thinking is crucial to thinking more critically. Understanding how if I make this decision today, that could lead to these various different either acceptance or rejection of my decision. That could make the competitive landscape change in this particular way. Every decision that we come up with, every solution we try and implement will have downstream implications. And we don't want to find ourselves in a scenario where we've solved all of our problems with bigger problems. So we need to think more critically by considering the implications of our solutions as well. By the way, the solved all our problems, that's an OK Go quote. If you caught that, leave that in the comments. If you didn't, Google it, watch the music video. It's a great video. So we have 4 habits to develop here. We can borrow diverse brains, we can question our assumptions, work upstream to make sure we're solving the right problem, and work downstream to make sure that we're not causing more problems. And I want to emphasize that even though I started this video talking about thinking, these are habits. These are things that if you do them once, you may stumble into some undiscovered genius, but if you do them every single time you're faced with a problem or you're faced with a situation you need to think critically about, I can almost guarantee that you will level up your critical thinking and you will find those solutions. This is not one thing to do or a quick checklist in your brainstorming sessions with your team. These are habits we ought to develop. These are habits we ought to teach others how to do. And when we do, we'll find that we are coming up with better solutions. We are launching better initiatives, launching better products, solving problems on a bigger level, and allowing everyone in our charge to do their best work ever. And one more thing, if you are truly harnessing diversity and thinking more critically, as we said before, you're gonna run into conflict. So you're gonna wanna watch this video on how to resolve conflict as a team, how to harness conflict and turn it into growth for a team instead of letting it tear the team apart. Check this video out to learn how to do that. Wouldn't you wanna do that? Watch the video.